still under warranty?
Yes, we had a 5-year one. And we hadn't got a year. So anyway, you know, the Mars New Year's and the weekend, I'm sure it'll be next week.
I'm sure it will.
It's a beautiful week. It goes in Friday, so I'm hoping it's good. But it'll be what it is. That's great.
Yo, hello, what do you know?
Very nice. And everything, but it's like, we can't use the water enough.
Are all left, one or the other.
We can use our refrigerator. I'm trying to put the price out, we got water. But, you know, it's been 2 weeks and it's not.
Show me it.
Anyway,
Stressful, isn't it?
It's life, but I'm trying to, you know, I get to
Let me get a cheese.
you know, bring my home. Seems like every time. It's sandwich affections. I said, I think my
Not a good one,
yes, but anyway, it'll get there.
Mitch,
Hello.
how are you?
Yeah.
Are you?
A lot of business here.
I'm glad Christmas is over. I don't have that stuff put away. I'm gonna leave my stuff in the yard and on my front balcony for another week. I think I'm still. I hope we get the outside stuff put up this week, but our kids were just there Saturday, and so I'm still. And I was cooking for some people today, so. Yeah, it's just a mess.
It's hard to get to.
It's
We got to put up, only because, I mean, the outside, because you don't bring all the good Friday, he didn't want to have it.
all of my Christmas decorating in the house, a lot of them go in this closet in the room where Rita is. Well, she's found out she's gonna get to move to Langley Village.
Oh, is she?
So she's gonna be moving in about a week or something. And I thought, just leave it and wait till you can get in the closet.
Is that your
The longer they take, the less I have to say. You guys got the lights dimmed on you twice, and you still haven't sat down. Good evening. There's a lot of people here for New Year's Eve. I chose this night because I thought we wouldn't have a lot of people here, and I could get away with not having to say a bunch. All right, well, hey, you can hear me now. You just had to hit that microphone for this one to get it together. It was afraid. All right. Good evening. Go ahead and open up your Bibles and turn to Exodus chapter 3. And then put a mark in there. And then turn to Hebrews 11 and put a mark in there. And if you don't have 2 marks for your Bible, I can fix that for you. Or you just need to get a better Bible. I can also help you with that. Hebrews 11, and we'll start there, and then we're going to go to Acts. We'll come back to Exodus eventually. All right, tonight, as part of our series, we're going to be talking about the great I Am. To start that, we're going to talk about Moses and what a great man he was before he had his encounter with God and was told the name of God as the great I Am, or I Am. So let's see. I gave you a bunch of verses and forgot where I told you we'd start. I gave you a couple. I said Exodus. If you guys just said Exodus, you weren't listening. I said Exodus. Put a mark in there. Go to Hebrews 11. We'll go to Hebrews 11 here in a minute, but I'm going to start from Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7 is when Stephen is giving his sermon that ends in his martyrdom. And in that sermon, he is going through Jewish history. So he gets to Moses, and he kind of summarizes Moses' life. And to start talking about how Moses was a great man, we can see in verse 22 of Acts chapter 7, it says, Moses was educated in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and he was proficient in speaking and action. That word proficient could be powerful. It's just a word that means he was able. He was able to speak, and he was able in action. And so he was proficient in all those of the Egyptians. He was educated, he was trained, learned in the way of the Egyptians. Obviously, growing up in Egyptian royalty, he had more opportunities benefited to him, and he was educated. He had a good reputation. He would have had respect among the Egyptians, and he would have probably been considered great by their perspectives. So, by the perspectives of the Egyptians, Moses was a great man. Go ahead and turn to Hebrews 11. Hebrews 11 having we have coined the Hall of Faith. Moses among them. Very prominent. Hebrews 11, verse 23. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden for 3 months by his parents because they saw he was a beautiful child, and they were not afraid of the king's edict. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to endure ill treatment with the people of God than to enjoy the temporary pleasures of sin, considering the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking to the reward. Obviously, that reward being heaven. So we have that by Egyptian perspective. He was a great man. He was learned and educated by them. And by perspectives of the Hebrews, he became a great man with his faith, looking towards his treasure. We know Moses to be great. Let's go back to Acts chapter 7, to Stephen's address. Kind of gives a summation of the life of Moses, and so we'll get some of that from there, from Stephen, and then we'll go back to Exodus. So after growing up Egyptian and having that training, being proficient in speaking and action, and I think for me in my study of this and seeing, he was proficient in speaking. That's not what we normally think of Moses as, being someone who we would call proficient. He himself, we're going to talk about later, said that he's not eloquent. He's not a good speaker. But here we have Stephen saying that he was proficient in speaking. He was able. He was powerful in speech. And then in verse 23, it says, "But when he was approaching the age of 40, it entered his mind to visit his countrymen, the sons of Israel. And when he saw one of them being treated unjustly, he defended and took vengeance for the oppressed man by fatally striking the Egyptian. And he thought that his brothers understood that God was granting them deliverance through him, but they did not understand. And on the following day he appeared to them as they were fighting each other, and he tried to reconcile them to peace by saying, 'Men, you are brothers. Why are you injuring each other?' But the one who was injuring his neighbor pushed him away, saying, 'Who made you ruler and judge over us? You do not intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian yesterday, do you?' At this remark, Moses fled and became a stranger in the land of Midian, where he fathered 2 sons." So this is kind of like, if you may understand the hero's journey. There's different elements of every hero's journey. I'm a big fantasy sci-fi guy. I think of Luke Skywalker as the hero, and he has the hero's journey, and he's growing up on Tatooine, and there's an incident that gets him out. Maybe I'm just talking nerdy to you, but that's the hero's journey. We see it in film and books all the time, and Moses has this inciting incident, and as part of his hero's journey. This would be what some would call the call to adventure in the hero's journey. In the scene of Moses killing an Egyptian. This is the inciting incident that brings our hero to the front, that gives him his first time of being a hero, and it's going to be all good from there. I'm going to become a hero, I'm going to save people, and I'm going to be great. And then the very next thing we see is that he's rejected by his people. He sees people fighting, and they stop and they turn on him, and it's a rejection to him. So we see our hero, Moses, encountering his call to adventure, the inciting incident, and then we get to the next part of the journey, which is the refusal. We often see as part of a hero's journey in literature, the hero experiencing a sense of self-doubt, something that happens that makes him retreat from that journey. Now, I'm not saying this to say that this is just that Moses was just some kind of literary character, but he does fit a lot of what's in the hero's journey. So he flees to Midian, and his time in Midian, which is he's already lived 40 years, and he spends 40 years in Midian, and this prepares him for that next part of the hero's journey, meeting his mentor. So I told you to stick in Exodus. We'll go back to Exodus. That's where we'll kind of spend most of this time. Exodus chapter 2. I think I said 3. We'll be in 2 and 3. So he flees to Midian, and he lives a whole life there. In verse 23 of chapter 2, "Now it came about in the course of those many days that the king of Egypt died. And the sons of Israel groaned because of the bondage, and they cried out, and their cry for help because of their bondage ascended to God. So God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And God saw the sons of Israel, and God took notice of them. So the next part of the hero's journey is to meet the mentor. In Luke Skywalker's heroic journey, that's meeting Obi-Wan Kenobi. A little later in the heroic journey can kind of be a cycle. It becomes Yoda. Frodo Baggins has Gandalf, and Harry Potter has Dumbledore. All sorts of heroes encounter their mentor. That is the one that gives them sage, wise counsel, and then ignites their call to their hero's journey again. The other one I was going to mention was Mr. Miyagi, also a great mentor to a hero. But he encounters God himself. His mentor is no mere just normal mentor. He's far, far greater than any mentor we've seen in literature or movies. He encounters God himself, who saw the plight of his people, just like Moses had seen. So his mentor, God, is putting himself in the position, and we're not going to continue this hero's journey business the whole time I'm talking, I promise. But God puts himself in the position of his hero. He sees the plight, the agony, the suffering that his people are going through, and he wants to do something about it. Because he says that he heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant that he had with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and God saw the sons of Israel, and God took notice of them. It's not until God unites his mission with Moses that people start to see that the Hebrews start to see, the Israelites start to see Moses as that great man because of his mentor, the great I Am. And so we continue in Exodus chapter 3. Give me just a second. I need to take a drink of water. So we've met the mentor. Now he's going to get that second call after the refusal, after his initial call as a hero. We have chapter 3, verse 1. Now Moses was pasturing the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire from the midst of a bush, and he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, yet the bush was not being consumed. The angel of the Lord, I'm sure you've studied that, and you've seen different opinions on that. Some people say that this is definitely the pre-incarnate Christ. Others say that it is something else, that is just God. I think that you can think of it that way. I think taking it at its face value of it saying the angel of the Lord, the word angel meaning messenger, I think of it as this is something of an ancient version of a Zoom call. We have God coming down to have a talk with Moses, and he appears in the burning bush. So this angel Lord can be referred to as the Lord. It's very obviously God, or a physical representation of him, so that Moses could understand what it is or who it is that he's communing with. In verse 3, so Moses said, I must turn aside and see this marvelous sight, why the bush is not burning up. Some of the commentaries that I looked at said that this is just the language here is simply just Moses turned and looked. But it's something that obviously captures his attention. It would have been common to see bushes that were burning, but not bushes that were eternally burning, that were burning and not being consumed, right? He might have seen the bush burning at one point, and then kept about his business, and the bush is still burning, and it's still burning, and it's still burning. He's like, what's going on with that bush over there? And that's when he comes near. When the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here I am. That Moses, Moses, we know that repetition is for emphasis. But that repetition of Moses' name carries both that emphasis and a more personal tone. That God is very obviously getting Moses' attention. That this is the person that he is seeking to call. He knew who he was calling, and that it was exactly Moses. This repetition may have been encouraging to Moses to understand that this bush wants to talk to me. Continuing in verse 5. Then he said, "Do not come near here. Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground." I think a lot has been said recently on the removing of the sandals and the what that means. God tells Moses not to come any closer, drawing a distinct barrier between he and Moses. This is the first initial thing that shows like I said, a distinct barrier between the two of that this is God and you are Moses. You are the one that will remove your sandals. The removing of sandals would have been something that slaves would do with their masters to signify you are greater than I am. The removing of sandals was them putting their feet in the dirt and saying that is where I belong and you belong in a higher place. And in the East, this was and still is a sign of humility and reverence. I would suggest that the removing of sandals for us today is the removal of anything that draws our attention away from God. And if we were to think about coming in together as we come to worship, as we come to study, as we come to any gathering where we are putting God at our forefront, that if we want to think of what is our removing of sandals, what is our way to show reverence and to show humility, it's anything that draws our attention away from that purpose, from that focus on God, distracting others and ourselves from God, anything that does that. It's a strictly not humble attitude or act. It would also be the removal of anything that minimizes God to us or to anyone around us. Anything that doesn't place God above us, anything. It could be what we're wearing. It could be, I know that phones get a bad rap, and rightfully so. I am very tempted by my phone. It distracts me all the time. And it can be something that does that. It takes your attention, your focus away from God and pulls you out of that and of no longer having that reverence and that humility towards God. Because if you're focused on your phone, if you're focused on what somebody is wearing, if your attention is not on your worship of God, then you're not being reverent, you're not being humble, you're not acknowledging His greatness. It wasn't physically the sandals that declared the humility and the focus, though. It's not what we wear. It's not the things that distract us, ultimately. It's our head and our heart. Turn back to Hebrews chapter 10. It doesn't matter how much a phone distracts us or... I tell you what, the most distracting thing for me in worship when I'm not leading singing, or if I am leading singing, is my own children. They can be a distraction. That may not be their fault. Well, that is their fault, but it may not be my fault. I kind of have to, right? But it's something that does pull away. But if I'm not fixing my head and my heart, then I'm not addressing the issue. It doesn't matter if I got rid of my phone or not. I remember when I was growing up, maybe you've been in churches like this that had the big, nice painting behind the baptistry or some kind of photo. Ours was like a fall scene with a waterfall and just trees and such. And as a kid, I would just stare at that. And I would find little faces in there, and I would completely check out. So it didn't matter if I had a phone. It didn't matter of anything. I'm going to find a way to distract myself. And that's why I said it comes down to our head and our heart. Hebrews 10, verse 22 says, "Let's approach God with a sincere heart in full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. Let's hold firmly to the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. Let's consider how to encourage one another in love and good deeds, not abandoning our own meeting together, as is the habit of some people, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. Our reverence for God, our humility, placing him above us, our removing of the sandals, is the removing that evil conscience from our heart, to clear our minds so that we can focus on God, so that we can focus on encouraging each other, so that we all have that same goal. And so this is kind of aside from the main point of the lesson, but it's here in the text, and I wanted to talk about it. The removing of our sandals. I don't suggest coming into worship and taking your shoes off. That might smell bad. That might not be a good look. That might be distracting. But I do suggest removing whatever it is that distracts you from your heart. All right, back to Exodus chapter 3. I lost my water. Where'd I put it? I hid it over here this time. So Moses comes to him, and God tells him to remove his sandals because this is holy ground. If you're going to approach God, you have to remove your sandals. You have to remove that from your heart. That's not going to allow you to focus on him. You need to acknowledge him as higher than you. Humble yourself. So picking up in verse 6, and he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Then Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. That statement, I am, is going to come back. And in the original language, it's more of, that's a note I wanted to say later. Hang on. Keep that in your mind for later. I'm going to talk about language, original language later. Informing Moses, this is God informing Moses that he is that covenant God. And Moses immediately was afraid to gaze upon him, fearing that he would die if he saw God at this point. The reverence for God was so much so that the thought of seeing him, and comes later in Moses' life, was going to put you to death instantly. And so as soon as Moses hears that this is the covenant God, this is the God of my fathers, I can't look at that. So he starts to turn away. Verse 7, and the Lord said, I have certainly seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt, and I've heard their outcry because of their taskmasters, for I am aware of their sufferings. So I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians, and to bring them up from the land to a good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite. And now, behold, the cry of the sons of Israel has come to me. Furthermore, I have seen the oppression with which the Egyptians are oppressing them. God inserts a couple words here that adds more to the suffering that we see the Israelites going through. God expresses his knowledge of the situation in Egypt and makes it clear that the Israelites are suffering from the Egyptians. He informs Moses that he has selected him. This is that call of the hero. In verse 10, he says, and now come, and I will send you to Pharaoh, so that you may bring my people, the sons of Israel, out of Egypt. Now, put yourself in Moses' shoes. 40 years ago, you got that feeling that you were going to save your people. You saved somebody, you saved one person, and you were going to do that for everybody. And then they reject you, and so you leave, you flee the area, and you live an entirely different, low life. I think we give Moses a bad rap for what he's about to say, some of the things that he says to God, but we don't think about the situation that he's in, the self-doubt that he's experienced, the rejection that he's experienced, and 40 years of living, of quiet living, away from the suffering. So God expresses his knowledge. He informs that Moses he has selected him. He is calling. This is the call of the hero. The mentor has now reinitiated the inciting incident for Moses' heroic journey with a call. This call wasn't one to do what Moses wanted or be the actual hero, because God was always going to be the actual hero in the story of Moses. He was being called to deliver the Israelites with God's backing, with God doing the real work. Moses was just going to be his vessel. Moses responds with more refusal. So it's, like I said, that heroic journey gets cyclical. And so we're getting back to he's had the call and he rejected it, and then now he's met his mentor and he's getting the call again, but he's going to try to reject it again. Picking back up in verse 11, it says, before that, we know Moses was trained in Egyptian ways and was proficient in words and actions. That was the Moses before his experiences, before the rejection. And like I said, he's done 40 years worth of, it doubled his lifespan since then. He's now 80 years old. And he's done a whole lot of living since that initial time when he was going to be the hero. So picking back up in verse 11. But Moses said to God, "Who am I, that I should go to Pharaoh, that I should bring the sons of Israel out of Egypt?" And he said, Assuredly I will be with you, and this shall be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you when you have brought the people out of Egypt. You shall worship God at this mountain." Then Moses said to God, "Behold, I am going to the sons of Israel, and I will say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you. Now they may say to me, What is his name? What shall I say to them?" And God said to Moses, "I am who I am." And he said, "This is what you shall say to the sons of Israel. I am has sent me to you." God furthermore said to Moses, "This is what you shall say to the sons of Israel. The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is the name for all generations to use to call upon me." So backing up to verses 11, Moses says to God, "But who am I? I'm just a guy that's been out living in Midian and living a low life and not been a part of the sufferings. I've not been a part of that for so long. Who am I? Why would you call me?" He's no longer that confident and impulsive man that said that saved the Hebrew from the Egyptian. God's response is, "I will be with you." It's not about you. Interestingly, in the language here, it could be translated as, "I am with you." This is the note that I said I'm going to talk about the language. So he says, "I will be with you," is how we translate it. The language here also fits that "I am" language, where he talks about his name as "I am," being the name of God. We see that throughout these passages. Back in verse 6, where he says, "I am the God of your father." And then he says it again here, that "I am with you." He's with him now. He's going to be with him. It pairs well with the divine name that we get in verse 14. This helps to explain that name as one who is eternally present, one who is there. I am with you. And what a wonderful comfort that should have been to Moses. Joshua, throughout the book of Joshua, we hear from God, "Be strong and courageous and do not be afraid, for the Lord goes with you." The Lord is with you. The disciples hear this when they are given their Great Commission. Let's read Matthew chapter 28. Similar to Moses, they're getting a call to do something from God, to go out. Matthew chapter 28, verse 16 through 20. But the 11 disciples proceeded to Galilee, to the mountain which Jesus had designated to them. And when they saw him, they worshipped him, but some were doubtful. And Jesus came up and spoke to them, saying, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to follow all that I commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age." This is the same thing that we should have in our heads when we experience the doubt in ourselves. We see that the disciples were doubting. We see Moses doubting. All throughout the Bible, when people doubt, God is there. What they aren't, what they feel they aren't, God is going to fill that gap with his presence. God has consistently promised to be with his people. This empowers us to believe because when we humble ourselves and acknowledge him as greater than us, it's not about where we go. It's about wherever we go, God is with us. It's not about who we are. It's about the fact that we have God with us. He tells Abraham, told him that too, that he's with him. He tells Moses, I am with you. In verse 13, Moses has another objection to his calling. He says, what if and I always thought this was weird. To be honest, this question for Moses has always struck me as odd. He's like, but what am I going to tell him the name of the person that sent me? And then I did some more study about it, and it's that self-doubt that Moses has. He's going to encounter these people, and he's coming to them and telling them just what he says. His response to God is, I'm going to tell them that the God of your fathers has sent me, and it's the proof. They're going to want proof that are you talking about our God? Are we on the same page about who God is? What's his name? This is not going to be, there's some debate over whether this is the first instance of God giving people his name. There would have been, I think that this is evidence that they would have already known the name of God. That they would expect the correct response from Moses about the name of God, that I am name, that Yahweh name. So yeah, Moses was afraid they still wouldn't believe him. He's again afraid because of his own self-doubt. It's as if Moses here is constantly telling God, I'm not strong enough. I'm not convincing enough. I am not eloquent enough. I am not one to do this. And God responds, I am. When Moses is saying, I am not, God responds to him saying, I am. When we say I ain't, God says, I am. And how much of a comforting thought that is, because we all experience self-doubt. We all experience times when we think that we're not enough, that we're not worthy, that we're not good, but we serve God who is. We have a God that says, I am, when we say, I am not. God is what I need him to be for me. He makes up for everything that I am not. And the great things that I think I am, those are because of who God is. God is giving Moses another helping of humility here. The one who sends you is everything that you are not. This name also was obviously, I already said this, that this was something that they would have known. And thinking about going back to that scene where he's coming to the Hebrews and says, and is breaking up their fighting, and they're like, who made you ruler? That's the fear, is that he needs to be able to tell them exactly who made him someone with authority. And it's not his authority, it's I am's authority. It's not him, it's God. Now we're going to skip ahead to chapter 4. God gives Moses more of an explanation of exactly what he's going to do, and Moses carries that out. But before that, Moses has more objections. So starting in chapter 4, verse 1, then Moses said, what if they will not believe me or listen to what I say? For they may say, the Lord has not appeared to you. The Lord said to him, what is that in your hand? And he said, a staff. Then he said, throw it on the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it turned into a serpent, and Moses fled from it. But the Lord said to Moses, reach out with your hand and grasp it by its tail. So that he reached out with his hand and caught it, and it turned into a staff in his hand, so that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. The Lord furthermore said to him, now put your hand inside the fold of your robe. So he put his hand inside the fold, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous like snow. Then he said, put your hand inside the fold of your robe again. So he put his hand into the fold again. And when he took it out of the fold, behold, it was restored like the rest of his flesh. So if they will not believe you, nor pay attention to the evidence of the first sign, they may believe the evidence of the last sign. But if they will not believe even these two signs, nor pay attention to what you say, then you shall take some water from the Nile and pour it on to the dry ground, and the water which you take from the Nile will turn into blood on the dry ground. So Moses, again, with encountering that self-doubt, saying, they're not going to believe me. I'm not going to be convincing enough. Just because I say I am is the one who sent me, I'm not going to be able to do that. God says I am. I will show them. And I think that he does the throwing of the staff and these miracles with Moses to prove to Moses that it's not about you, it's about what I can do. To get ingrained into Moses' head that it's not about you, it's about me. Verse 10, then Moses said to the Lord, please, Lord, I've never been eloquent, neither recently nor in time past, nor since you have spoken to your servant, for I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. Now wait a minute. This is what always gets me, because we read that it said that he was proficient in speech, was at least for Egyptians. Maybe it had something to do with his ability to talk to the Hebrews, or maybe it had something to do with experiencing that doubt or that 40 years of being away from it all. He's experiencing that inability to that feeling of not being able. Coming up with just another excuse. Maybe if I come up with just one more excuse, God will let me out of this. He'll go on, he'll move on to somebody else. Verse 11, but the Lord said to him, who has made the human mouth? Or who makes anyone unable to speak or deaf or able to see or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now then go, and I myself will be with your mouth and instruct you in what you are to say. But he said, please, Lord, now send the message by whomever you will. Then the anger of the Lord burned against Moses, and he said, is there not your brother Aaron the Levite? I know that he speaks fluently, and moreover, behold, he is coming out to meet you. When he sees you, he will be overjoyed. So you are to speak to him and put the words in his mouth, and I myself will be with your mouth and his mouth, and I will instruct you in what you are to do. He shall speak for you to the people, and he will be as a mouth for you, and you will be as God to him. So what I'm doing for you, you're going to do to Aaron, and Aaron's going to speak to the people. Don't worry, I got it all figured out. Go and do what I told you to do. You can feel that God, it says that his anger is burning against him. God's like, okay, we need to get on with the show here. You've got to get this together. It's not about you, it's about me. We got it now, right? So Moses brought his weaknesses to God, and God brought his name to him. You may not be, but I am. This is the foundation of faith. This is everything that we believe in. We have to acknowledge God is greater than us to have faith. We have to show humility. Everything that we ain't, God is. And so we see more of the story with Moses. He goes on with the rescuing of the Israelites from Egyptian captivity. We see the 10 plagues. Something that I think is interesting is that the 10 plagues would have been something now that we have God revealing himself to Moses, God's going to reveal himself to the Israelites as someone who's going to save them, but he's also revealing his power to the Egyptians. This is who God is. I am better than your gods. Each of it can be thought of, some suggest, that the plagues line up with the Egyptians' gods. Each of the plagues align with an Egyptian god to be challenged. So that God proves against each and every one of the Egyptian gods that I'm better than them. God says to them, I am, and your gods are not. So God, to Israel, he reveals that he keeps his promises, he leads, he protects. To Egypt, God judges their idolatry, their false power, their everything that they put the Israelites through. He shows them that I am more powerful than what you serve. Then we see the ultimate story culminates in the sacrifice of Christ. Turn to John. Here we have in John chapter 1, God, I am, at the beginning. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him. And apart from him, not even one thing came into being that has come into being. In him was life, and the life was the light of mankind. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not grasp it. In verse 14, and the Word becomes flesh and dwelt among us. And we saw his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. Turn to John chapter 8. So Jesus is the incarnation of the great I am. In verse 58 of John chapter 8, Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was born, I am. Throughout John, we have several I am statements from Jesus saying, I am the bread of life, the light of the world, the good shepherd, the resurrection and life, the way, the truth, the life, the true vine, showing God through Jesus, sustaining how he sustains us physically and spiritually, how he enters our darkness as the light of the world, how he protects and leads and lays down his life as the good shepherd. As the resurrection and the life, it shows his authority over death. As the way, the truth, and the life, it's that he is the only path to God. As the true vine, it's that we cannot bear fruit apart from him. Everything that we aren't, God is. Jesus was. Jesus is. Later in the devotional, we'll talk more about this. But in order to view God as the great I am, we have to view ourselves as the great I ain't. We have to view ourselves as less. We have to humble ourselves. Like I said, it's the foundation of our faith to acknowledge God as greater than us, the great I am. Thank you.
Good evening. I want to welcome everybody here tonight. Hope everybody's having a good last day of the year. Glad that everybody's here, especially those of you who are visiting with us. Lots of friends and family here this evening, and those of you who aren't friends or family or just here this evening, we want you to know that we consider you to be our friends and family. We hope that you stick around a little while afterwards so we can shake your hand, get to know you a little bit better. You can get to know us a little bit better as well. And to those viewing online at home, we hope that this finds you well and, Lord willing, be able to be back with us again very soon. If you're using a songbook and would like to mark the song invitation this evening, it'll be number 763, Why Keep Jesus Waiting? And before the devotional thought this evening, we'll sing number 238, Holy, Holy, Holy.
All right, I left my notes down there so I don't go until midnight, so we're not all celebrating the new year together. Well, maybe some of us are, but turn to Luke chapter, oh, this is where I should have not gotten rid of my notes. Not Luke chapter 19. We talked in class about serving the great I am. We talked about Moses and his encounter with God and receiving that call to save his people. And that over and over, Moses tried to refuse, tried to put it off on other people, tried to say, I am not, I am not, I am not. And God's response is, I am. We serve the great I am, the one who makes up for what we lack, the one who makes up for everything that we aren't. We are the great I ain't, and he is the great I am. When we feel that we are not strong enough, that we are not worthy enough, that we are not good enough, God is. God is all of those things. And that's the God that we serve, the one that makes up for what we are. In Luke chapter 19, this is something I've been wanting to say for a while, so I finally got a few moments to talk, and I wanted to say it. We have Jesus coming into Jerusalem, making that triumphal entry, and he has his disciples all around. We're going to start in verse 36 of Luke chapter 19. Now as he was going, they were spreading their cloaks on the road, and as soon as he was approaching near the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of the disciples began to praise God joyfully with a loud voice for all the miracles which they had seen, shouting, "Blessed is the King, the one who comes in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest." And yet some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples." Jesus replied, "I tell you, if these stop speaking, the stones will cry out." We serve a God that Romans 1:20 tells us that all of nature shows his handiwork. We sing, "How great thou art." When we look at God's creation, it cries out, "God made me." That we have the great I am, that I am the great creator, the one that created it all. And we follow that God. And yet, many of us are like the Pharisees in this story and not like the disciples. The disciples are the ones shouting joyfully because of the one that they serve. Shouting, "Blessed is the King, the one who comes in the name of the Lord." And yet some of us are like the Pharisees, who want to take care of those disciples who are enjoying themselves too much. I'm not saying this to address anybody specifically in here. This is a feeling that I get from some of us in greater Christianity, is that we look around at denominations, we look at other Christians, and we say, well, they're not experiencing the truth. That's just the Spirit, or they're not true believers. Or we get cynical, we get pessimistic, and we don't appreciate God for who he is and show that joy that we serve the great I am. We should be shouting it from the rooftops. We should be the disciples going through the city and shouting and dancing and having joy. And yet some of us want to be the Pharisees that point out the people that do that as not being real Christians. Real Christians are the ones that do that, because if they don't do it, the rocks are doing it. If the rocks are crying out and declaring who God is, that great I am, we should be too. We should be joyfully sharing. And I fall into this as well. I'm too afraid to share my beliefs, to bring other people to God, to evangelize in the way that I should, to talk to people and give every moment that I have in a day to bring people to the wonderful God that I serve. I think about it all the time, the people that I don't share with, that I am not joyfully serving. I get just as cynical about Christians as well. And I often wonder what the God that I'm showing to people. I'm not often this one that is shouting joyfully. But I want to be that. And maybe that's my New Year's resolution, is to more often be the person that's shouting joyfully in the street about my God and who he is, and that great I am that he is, and not the Pharisees that are pointing out the ones and being cynical and pessimistic. And I want to be the one that's joyful, that makes other people want to be here, to wonder, why am I so happy? Because I serve the great I am. Tonight, we have an opportunity to come forward to express sins in our lives. We have opportunity now to join the family here as a Christian, to be baptized in the waters. If you have any need, please come forward as we stand and as we sing.
Before our announcements and our closing prayer this evening, we'll sing number 743, We'll Work Till Jesus Comes. On a personal note before this song, I do want to express my thanks, me and my family's thanks for the many cards, texts, calls, and especially the prayers for our family for the loss of my grandfather a couple weeks ago. So a very big thank you to Central family for all that.
Good evening. It's good to see everyone here, and if you're visiting with us, I see some people out here who may be visiting. We'd love to for you to stick around after, and we'd love to fellowship with you. For announcements today, we have a few sick on our list, unfortunately. Joyce Dykus is now at Jim Thorpe Rehab after fracturing her spine in a fall last week, and PJ Langston's surgery was postponed, and he will see a hematologist first. And Lee Hogan had a PET scan today, and Eva Stamps will have a stent placed in her trachea on January 7th. Frank White will have an angiogram on January 9th, and Ronnie Whittington has pneumonia and is dehydrated. Susie Fortune had a nerve block yesterday, and Karen Lambert's niece, Charlotte Chronister, has been diagnosed with lung cancer. Our sympathy goes to the Hogan family and Lee Hogan, as Teresa Hogan has passed away, his sister-in-law. For other announcements, all young families are invited to stay after this service for a New Year's party in the Activity Center, and there are information sheets in the foyer. The Young Adult Area-Wide is this Friday, January 2nd, in the Activity Center. Men's breakfast will meet on January 3rd at 8 a.m., and the ladies' brunch will be at 10 a.m. that day. And the ladies, please sign up for that in the foyer. The area-wide teen gathering is this Sunday, January 4th, at Westside in Norman. And the kindergarten third grade devotional is this Sunday evening, and we do need a host right now. Prime timers, there is an information sheet in the foyer for the potluck on Thursday, January 8th. And ladies, please save the date of Saturday, January 17th for the annual sign-up luncheon. If you have not turned in a purpose card for 2026, they're in the foyer. The cards are only used to set our budget for the year, and no record of names or amounts will be kept. And the early birds meet next week. And then I think we have our closing prayer.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this day, and thank you for letting us all be here today. Please help us through all of our struggles so that it may allow us to be a better reflection of your image. Please give us strength so that we can bring others to you. Please help the sick of our number so that they can recover and join us once again. Please forgive us of our sins, for we know that we have many, and thank you for giving us Jesus so that we can be forgiven of those sins. In his name, amen.